G'day, I'm Ash. Welcome to the 1.85 Supersonic dev server. And as per usual, all content is subject to change, and with the new vehicles, changes and other features, these should not be taken as final and will likely be changed, impeding final release. And with that out the way, if you've probably seen my last video, I didn't really mention anything about countermeasures, so I thought I'd talk about some of the countermeasures that come in form of helicopters, and, well, with air-to-air missiles, and also take a look at some of the other changes and many fixes, and also have a look at some of the naval vessels. So we're going to start off with the helicopters. Now, obviously, this is the AH-1Z. It's a Rank 6 Battle Rating 10.0, but it's not new. What's new is more the fact in the modifications. Of course, we've had air-to-air missiles modelled, we just haven't really been using them. And that, of course, is the AIM-9s. Now, above the AIM-9s is two devices which allows for countermeasures, and one is optional, and you can't have both at the same time. Now, if I want to have flares, for example, I can't also have the sidewinders. So that's an important thing to note here. When I go back to modifications here, the IRCM allows for false heat targets, basically flares. Then you've also got a object which you can install, but you can't have any of the others, which is an infrared counter protection system that protects from infrared devices locking onto your particular vehicle. But keep in mind, you can't have the air-to-air missiles and the flares at the same time. Now let's install the flares. Let's try and install no, so that don't work. You can either have one or the other, but it's a bit the same. Now, this is the only vehicle that the US have in terms of helicopter firepower that has the ability to have flares. None of the other helicopters, as far as I'm aware, have the ability to have any flares. None of the Hueys do. No, they don't have any things. Not even the AH-1F, which is quite odd. Actually, the AH-1F has the infrared locking countermeasure. So that's the only other vehicle that does have, a countermeasure per se. With the Russians, however, it's a little more interesting. The Russians from the Mi-24A, I believe, get flares. No, it's the Mi-24V, so from rank 6 onwards. They get a thing called an EVU, which is an installation device which, covers the exhaust and prevents, heat signature, or lowers your heat signature, and it also gets access to the flares, as well as the same IR, countermeasure device. Now, the Mi-35 and the Mi-24P, they both get the same. So when I install the EVU, let's have a look here. The EVU should cover some part of my engines and limit, yeah, there it is on the back there. It covers this little engine up here on the top, as well as some of the other exhausts. Basically, it should lower the heat signature of the aircraft, allowing for it to not lock on. Let's take that off. Again, some of the covers might be removed or what have you. I'm not exactly sure what changes on the actual aircraft itself, but I assume it's pretty alright. So now that I've got flares on the back here, this massive rack on the back, the rear of the fuselage of the aircraft, yeah, it launches flares. And then, of course, you've got the countermeasure from the infrared guidance system. Now, how do these work? Well, the infrared countermeasure, well, protects you from getting locked on to an extensive degree. And the EVU, which is only a Russian thing, is that shields the exhaust and lowers the amount of heat output. Now, the only interesting thing is really the flares. And let's go into a test flight and I'll show you what I mean here. We're going to go into realistic battles here. We're going to probably take off or already be in the air. Who knows? But it should be pretty interesting. Alright, we're on the ground here. Let's take off in our helicopter. Come on. There we go. Get the RPM back up. Alright, now that we've got an aircraft following us, we are going to launch our countermeasure flares. If it will allow us to. There we go. So you can do an angel effect with your helicopter. And then of course there's flex with the helicopter itself. But of course then you can get various other things. But essentially the only one that's really usable and really has a neat feature, apart from when a missile comes in towards you, it'll give you this missile lock. It's either then you either do an emergency maneuver, or you fly around, or what have you. But again, helicopters in War Thunder need a little bit of work, but it's nice to see. As for jets, there are no countermeasures on jets just yet. I assume you will see that with next generation jets, or even jets coming out in the near future. Besides from that, it's a pretty cool addition. I think being able to do that is fantastic. Anyway, onto the ships. The US Navy starts off with the USS Rayleigh. I'm going to call it that. I have no idea if that's the correct pronunciation, but this is a light cruiser CL7. And, well, this is certainly fantastic, that's for sure. However, the most important thing about this particular vessel is the fact that, let me go onto this view here, isn't the fact that it's a ship. Gajan, when can I have this particular spotter plane? Anyway, regardless, back onto the ship. It's a light cruiser, so it's very lightly armoured, and the same goes with the other light cruisers. It's not too much to talk about. The lower belt armour, or the anti-fragmentation armour, is thickest at 76mm. X-ray, everything seems to be a little bit below the water. In terms of armament, it's got 6-inch turrets, Mark 12 cannons with 1200 rounds, and also it's got an auxiliary 2 6-inch Mark 12s with 800 rounds, as well as 3-inch Mark 10 guns, and a whole shit ton of anti-aircraft, 175 Mark 1 automatic gun times 4, and 8 20mm cannon anti-air defense, as well as 6 torpedoes, 3 each side, which is the steam turbines. Now, the Russians are quite interesting. In fact, before we get to the Russians, we'll do the Germans. The Germans, I believe, was next. Mind out the Hellcat model there. This is the KMS Cologne, and, well, it's got 3 torpedoes either side, so that makes it a total of 12. It's got 3 15cm cannons times 3, and 3 88mm flat cannons, and the anti-air times 2. It's also got a whole host of other anti-air, and is just a general beast. The citadel armour is 50-20-20, and main fire tower is 30-20-20, but at maximum, you're getting 20mm or 50mm along the bottom, so there's nothing really much to say about that. And again, everything is below deck, if you know what I mean. Now, onto the Russians. The Russians get, well, they get quite a number of things, actually. Let me pull up my... They've got a destroyer lead ship, which is the Tashkent. There it is right here. Sorry, I'm going to have to find it in my tech tree. This is a leader, it's a destroyer, it's a rank 3, battle rating 4.3. It's got 76mm with 2 cannons. It's got a turret times 6 70k cannons with 9,000 rounds. It's also got 6 12.7 Dushka machine guns with 12,000 rounds. It's got 9 torpedoes with 3 that can swivel left and right in the direct centre. It's got guns for days. I think this one will be an extremely effective anti-air platform. Not so sure about ship destroying, although the 130mm B-13 cannons should do the job. In terms of armour, what armour? It doesn't have any, apart from the 8mm of anti-fragmentation armour on the actual turrets themselves. In terms of the X-rays, the Russians spaced everything out a little bit, and there is ammo storage underneath the magazines in the turrets. Aside from that, it's a pretty interesting destroyer. Now, the other thing they got is the Moskva, which is the destroyer lead ship. So let's have a look for the Moskva. Where is it? Should be around here somewhere. Moskva leader, there it is, found it. And this one actually has a visual model. Again, similar to the other vehicle. It's a rank 3, battle rating 4.3. It's got 5 130mm cannons, which should be good and fairly useful for taking out ships. And it's got 4 torpedo racks. Well, Sorry, it's got 2 torpedo racks consisting of 4 torpedoes each, with 2 76mm anti-aircraft guns, 2 45 anti-aircraft guns, and 8 Dushkum machine guns for anti-air protection. That's a bit overkill if I do say so. And the armor, well, again, like any Russian ship at this kind of tier, well, hardly any armor at all. And the X-ray, there's nothing to mention really here at all. But who knows, you know, regardless of how you go, I suppose the Russians are on a death wish here. They've got no protection for their ships at all. Now, the last one is the light cruiser. Excuse me. I'm going to call this one the Crashy with Ashy Krim. Alright? This is going to be my destroyer. I have no... the Krancy Krim. I don't think I'm pronouncing that. I'm not pronouncing that right. I don't care. It's got 1,530mm guns. This thing is an absolute monster. It's got guns for days. However, no spotter aircraft, so Ash is sad if he has to make an emergency getaway, so to speak. It's got so many guns, I'm not even going to bother listing them, because we've still got to do the British ships, and this video is getting on in a little bit in length. There are 4 12.7 Dushkum machine guns, and it's got 2 torpedo launching tubes with 3 either side, so a total of 6 torpedoes. Got 3 100mm naval guns. It's also got a shit ton of other guns, and you know what? It's Russian. And for once, they've actually got armor. It's 25mm, and 76 on some of the gun turrets. And around the center, point in the bridge is 125mm, and that's pretty much it. Alright, on to the British. And we're going to do this quick fire thing. Now, there's an MTB Series 1-2. It's a rank 1 premium, battle rating 1.0. It's possibly the cutest darn little thing I have ever seen. It's got 8 Lewis guns. Who doesn't love a ship with 8 Lewis guns? And of course, all controlled by 2 separate gunners. And of course, it's also got torpedoes. So you've got 2 torpedoes and, well, 2 7.7 Lewis machine guns. You know what? If this came out straight out of World War I, I wouldn't be surprised. but if anything, I'd want one of these vessels more than one of the other vessels. That's for sure. All right. The last in this series is a HMS Dildo? No, that's not safe for work. Regardless of what some of the other community members have said, it's a rank 4 battle rating 5.3. It's got 5 25-inch 50 QF Mark 1 cannons times 2 in each of the turrets, which is, you know, impressive firepower for a light cruiser. It's got so many anti-aircraft guns. Again, 2 40mm pounder anti-aircraft guns with 4 of those, and it's even got 20mm cannons with 5 of them as well. And on each side it can carry 3 torpedoes, so that's a total of 6. And again, no spotter aircraft. Ash is very sad. But I hope that I hope you've gotten all the information you need. As a very quick overview, the dev server is literally just about to close. I have no idea what to say apart from big grey floaty things. On that bombshell, please read the patch notes. There's things I've missed. And my name's Ash, and I'll catch you in the next one.